Hello there, everyone. Welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Karen. Today we are looking at part B of what are your meals like? Well, in part A, we were talking about breakfast, right?
That's right.
So today we will be talking about the lunch, right?
Okay, it's time for the meal in the middle of the day at
right.
noon. It is lunchtime, so let's eat lunch. Are you a person who likes to really plan your lunch? I know for a lot of people, on a weekday, lunch is sort of the hardest meal to really plan or enjoy because you often don't have a lot of time for lunch.
Well, you're right, but you do know that I work in a kindergarten, right?
Ooh.
So I get my free lunch every single day, and I think it's pretty healthy too because I eat at the school, they prepare the food for the kids, and us as teachers, we can also enjoy the healthy lunches.
How lucky that is. So
Yeah,
you find
I'm
the food to be quite delicious?
Well, I'm not a very picky person.
Okay,
I know some teachers might think, oh, it's not that good, I want to go out and buy, but I think a lot of food, just really, really good. I don't have a really, really high standard.
Okay, and plus it's a school. They're making it for kids. So as long as it's healthy and the kids like it, that's fine.
That's right, and I eat 2 bowls of rice every single day.
Good for you. You need your energy to teach in the afternoon, too.
That's right. How about you? What do you eat for lunch?
Anything that's convenient. Sometimes I have like 2 hours for lunch. Sometimes I have 20 minutes for lunch.
Oh, really?
So every day it kind of changes a bit where I am. I have a few favorite restaurants. There's a place I work that has a Vietnamese restaurant.
I love Vietnamese food.
Any day I go near there, I'm like, right, I'm having that for lunch. But other times I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe
what to have for
7-Eleven?
lunch. Maybe 7-Eleven. Or maybe I'll just skip it and just go home and have a big dinner. Because lunch can get squeezed in your busy daily schedule. But let's hope that Winnie and Thomas have time to enjoy their lunch, at least today, because they're going to be talking about the different types of lunch they enjoy eating. Let's check it out. Winnie and Thomas move on to their lunches.
You don't take many risks with food, do you?
What gave you that idea? I do take risks with food.
You always have the same thing for lunch. Plain white rice with vegetables and a little meat.
Hey, sometimes I have fried rice or noodles.
So we're looking at part B of what are your meals like? Last time we talked about breakfast, so today we'll be talking about their lunch.
Yes, absolutely. Now, lunch is the middle of the day. That's the meal you have around 12 noon, something like that. And as we begin the dialogue, we read that Winnie and Thomas move on to their lunches. Here, they're probably not moving on to their lunches like, right, we've eaten breakfast, now we're going to start eating lunch. No, it's moving on in their conversation. So what they're talking about, meals, now the subject is changing from breakfast to lunch. In other words, hey, let's talk about our lunches now. So that's what they do. Back to Thomas, they live together, Winnie and Thomas, they're good friends, know each other quite well, and he's noticed something. So he kind of says this as a bit of a question. He says, you don't take many risks with food, do you?
What does that mean by taking many risks?
Yeah,
with
well,
food?
to take a risk is to kind of take a chance, do something a little dangerous or a little different or something a little crazy or wild. So he's basically saying, you eat boring food.
You're not very adventurous.
You're not very adventurous. Or maybe she's just the kind of person who likes to eat the same thing every day.
True.
She doesn't change that often, but he kind of feels after living with her that he can guess what she will eat every day for breakfast or for lunch, and it doesn't change very much.
That's right, very predictable, right?
Yes.
So Winnie says, what gave you that idea? I do take risks with food. So obviously, Winnie does not agree with Thomas, right? So she said, I am quite adventurous. I do take risks. So maybe I do try new different types of food. I don't eat the same thing every single day.
Yeah, and maybe she does, but often when someone says, you're kind of a safe person who doesn't do anything wild or dangerous, you often go, oh, I do. I walked across the street when the light said, don't walk. Ooh, okay, that's a bit of a risk. That's a dangerous, crazy thing to do. Because sometimes she's just basically saying, you're not calling me boring, are you? I'm not boring. I take risks once in a while. And as we said, a risk is something kind of dangerous. In the real world, it can be a big danger, right? It is actually a risk to walk out into the street without looking if cars are coming. That is a real risk, as it is riding a motorcycle on a rainy day or not wearing a helmet or something like that. It's dangerous, something bad could happen. But of course, in other parts of our life, we can do things that might be a risk, but they won't hurt us. Going up and talking to that good-looking person in your class who you like, oh, it's a little scary, it's a little dangerous. It could also be a risk, but you won't be hurt in that situation.
You could be hurt, though.
Your heart could be hurt.
Yeah, your feelings
Your heart
could be hurt.
broken. Absolutely. Anyway, so to kind of explain this idea of what he's thinking and what he said about Winnie and not taking risks, he explains more. He says, you always have the same thing for lunch. Plain white rice with vegetables and a little meat. So this is all good food. There's nothing wrong with it. No reason to be embarrassed. But he's kind of saying it's a little boring just because it never changes.
That's true. Like you have the same thing basically every single day, right?
Yeah.
Well, plain rice and also some vegetables and meat. And then when he says, hey, sometimes I have fried rice or noodles.
She's defending herself again.
Exactly. So she's like,
Hey.
no, I'm not like that. Maybe
That's
I
right.
eat it like, 5 or 4 days a week. But then sometimes I would eat fried rice or noodles.
Wow, she's dangerous now. Sometimes I have a hamburger with cheese on it. Ooh, okay.
With some lettuce too.
She's just feeling a little embarrassed here, but really, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. If she likes plain white rice, have plain white rice.
Exactly, but plain is our next vocabulary word, and that's an adjective. When you say plain white rice, basically just means that it's simple, it's just the white rice, there's nothing else, right? Nothing extra that is added. Something that is very basic, something that is very simple. So you can also describe someone's shirt or their outfit as quite plain. If it doesn't have a lot of design, a lot of colors, it's a plain t-shirt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, some people might think of plain as saying boring, and in some cases it could be boring, but in other cases maybe that's just what you want.
Exactly.
You could have a fancy dress that makes you look like you're standing on top of a cake or something like that, or you can just wear a simple black dress, very classic, very elegant, but yeah, it's a little plain compared to a wedding gown or something. And speaking of wedding gowns, we're talking about the color that most wedding gowns are, and rice as well, which is white.
That's right.
White is kind of a plain color because white really isn't a color. White is just no color.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So when you think of an empty piece of paper, that is white, something like that. Very little color. And the opposite, of course, would be black.
And then the next vocabulary word here is vegetable. Like we said, Winnie likes to eat plain white rice, and she also eats some vegetables.
Right.
And vegetable is a noun and is a kind of food that you can eat. It's a plant or part of a plant that you can eat as food. So some examples might be broccoli, cabbage, carrots. There's so many different types of vegetables out there, and we all know that vegetables are very good for your body.
Absolutely. And they grow them on farms just like fruit, but we think of fruit as being a little bit sweeter, vegetables not so much. You might cook vegetables more than you cook your fruit. And if you make a salad, there will probably be mostly vegetables in there, unless it's a fruit salad,
That's
in which
true.
case we say fruit salad. And how about a meat salad? I think German people might eat a meat salad, but most people don't, because meat is the flesh of an animal.
Yes.
Basically, when we're talking about beef, pork, chicken, fish, I guess you could say fish is meat.
Lamb as well.
Lamb as well. These types of things that come from animals. On the farm, we raise the animal, then we kill the animal, cut it up and eat the meat, and we cook the meat and eat it in all sorts of ways. So
That's
basically,
right.
she's having her rice, a few vegetables, some kong chin sai, and maybe some pork or chicken, and that is her plain breakfast. But it sounds good to me.
Lunch.
Or sorry, lunch. But it sounds perfectly good to me.
That's
so
right.
maybe I'll have that for lunch. But before we have lunch, we have to take a break, and then we'll finish the article.
Don't get me wrong, your lunches are better than my boring salads and sandwiches.
But I saw you eat other things like pizza and spaghetti before.
I don't have those anymore because I'm trying to change my diet.
Really? Good for you.
Welcome back, everyone. So we are talking about Winnie and Thomas's lunch, right?
That's right. Winnie, I think, is feeling a little bit embarrassed because Thomas said that her lunches are a little boring.
Well, he didn't say boring.
Plain.
Plain, that's
He said
right.
she always eats the same thing every day. But don't worry, Winnie. He's not really saying anything bad. He's just saying, I notice you kind of eat the same lunch every day. And he admits that he's kind of the same. He says, don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand me. Don't feel bad. I'm not making fun of you, in other words. Don't get the wrong idea. And he explains, your lunches are better than my boring salads and sandwiches. So he also thinks his own lunch is kind of plain. He often eats a salad or a sandwich, and if he doesn't have a sandwich, he has a salad, and then after the salad, that kind of thing. And I think, as I said earlier, this is part of lunch, right? A lot of people are busy. You're away from your home. You don't have time to do something interesting. So something, a little boring is okay. But don't get me wrong, if you enjoy it and it gives you energy to get through your afternoon, go ahead, enjoy your lunch.
That's right. So he said that don't get me wrong basically just means don't misunderstand me, because he can tell that Winnie was a little bit offended. She kind of feels bad about what he said about her lunch. So it's like, no, I'm not trying to make you feel bad in any way. Okay. Don't get me wrong, right? So he actually calls his own lunch boring, right? So to make her feel a little bit better.
Yeah, there you go, because a lot of people don't have time to make a fancy lunch.
Exactly. So Winnie continues by saying, but I saw you eat other things like pizza and spaghetti before.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think that's actually quite a typical kind of meal for lunch too, spaghetti or pizza, and it's sometimes very convenient too.
You can find those in lots of restaurants around, that's true, but so he was eating other things apart from salads and sandwiches. As Winnie said, pizzas and spaghetti, I've seen you eat that, but there might be a reason he's not eating those. He says, I don't have those anymore because I'm trying to change my diet. Okay, notice he didn't say I'm trying to go on a diet or I'm on a diet. He said change my diet. So that's basically just I'm changing the foods that I eat. We'll get to that in a second.
That's right. And then Winnie says, really good for you. So she said good for you. So I'm assuming that she thinks having pizza or spaghetti for lunch is not exactly very, very healthy. Right? So that's why I said good for you for, changing your diet. But what is a diet?
Yeah, exactly. A diet is basically the food that you eat every day, the standard menu, the standard food that you will eat every day. That is your diet, okay? That your diet would be different from a baby's diet. They will eat different types of food. Animals have different diets, right? The diet of a lion is different from the diet of an elephant, the daily normal foods that they eat. Now, we also use this actually more commonly to talk about eating less food so that you lose weight. But
Go
there we would
on a diet.
Go on a diet, or we could say I'm dieting. If someone says I'm on a diet, I need to go on a diet, I'm dieting, that means I'm eating special low calorie, low salt, healthy food because I'm a little chubby and I want to lose weight for whatever reason. So it's a little bit different, but basically it's talking about the food that you eat on a normal, typical, average day. And I think changing your diet and cutting out some of those fattier foods like spaghetti or pizza and switching it out for a healthier sandwich or salad, good idea. Good for you, Thomas. Keep going. So far, I think they've done very well. I think their
guess so,
breakfasts are quite interesting and healthy, and lunch too.
But pizza and spaghetti, it does taste really, really delicious, though, I have to say. It does taste better than the salad and the sandwich.
Don't get me wrong. I would eat pizza every day if I could, but my doctor would probably say no.
Okay, you're right. Once in a while, and that should be okay.
Exactly. All right, we're all done for today, but I think we're going to be hungry in 4 or 5 hours. Dinner time is coming. It'll be tomorrow, so come back and join us for that. And maybe there'll be time for dessert.
Ooh, nice. We'll see you guys next time.
Winnie and Thomas move on to their lunches.
You don't take many risks with food, do you?
What gave you that idea? I do take risks with food.
You always have the same thing for lunch. Plain white rice with vegetables and a little meat.
Hey, sometimes I have fried rice or noodles.
Don't get me wrong, your lunches are better than my boring salads and sandwiches.
But I saw you eat other things, like pizza and spaghetti before.
I don't have those anymore because I'm trying to change my diet.
Really? Good for you.
Hello, I'm Tina. 我们来看这一课的重点单字。第一个 plain 形容词，食物原味的。What are the benefits of eating plain yogurt? 吃原味优格有什么好处？ Benefit 指的是好处，那么 yogurt 指的就是优格。下一个单字 white 形容词，白的米啊、面包、吐司等等。Do you eat white rice every day? 你每天都吃白饭吗？下一个单字 vegetable 名词，蔬菜。Teddy doesn't eat vegetables. Teddy 不吃蔬菜。最后一个单字 meat 名词，肉类。Vegetarians don't eat meat. 素食者不吃肉。Vegetarian 指的是素食者。接着我们来看重点文法。第一个 take a risk 冒险。Risk 是一个名词，表示风险、危险的意思。我们来看看这个例句。Sometimes it's good to take a risk. 有时候冒险是件好事。下一个，我们来看附加问句的用法。附加问句用于反问对方或再次确认某事的时候，它会放在句尾的位置。当主要子句是肯定句的时候，附加问句就要用否定句。相反的，如果主要子句是否定句，那么附加问句就必须使用肯定句。附加问句的主词要用人称代名词，否定附加问句的 be 动词或助动词必须要跟 not 缩写。我们来看看下面这些例句。Amy likes cats, doesn't she? Amy 喜欢猫咪，对吧？前面是肯定句，动词是 likes， 后面就要用助动词 does 的否定 doesn't。注意这边 does not 一定要缩写哦。我们继续看使用 be 动词的相关例句。Louis isn't a soccer player, is he? Louis 不是一位足球员，对吧？前面用到否定 be 动词 isn't 是一个否定句，后面就要用肯定的 be 动词 is。接着我们看最后一个文法 ，Don't get me wrong， 别误会我的意思。我们来看看这个例句 ，Don't get me wrong, I think it's a good plan。别误会我的意思，我觉得这是一个很棒的计划。以上就是这一课的重点单字跟文法，我们下一课再见喽，拜拜。
Wanjing YiYuan is in Xizhou Township in Changhua County. It is also known as the Kingdom of Rare Flowers and Trees and the Palace of Culture and Art. Wanjing YiYuan has all kinds of Taiwanese plants. The owner is also an art collector. He puts his collection on display for the public. The park covers 5.82 hectares. It used to be a private garden of the owner. The large and beautiful park later became the best place for flower expos. It showed excellent Taiwanese gardening works. Through the events, the park became very famous. As a result, Wanjing YiYuan officially opened to the public in 2014.